it was great privilege to meet Dr. K. Radhakrishnan, who was the chief guest, the then chairman of Space Commission and chairman ISRO. So it is a privilege for us to be a part of this IET fraternity. Now, coming to the session, yes, this topic was suggested. I mean, we had a discussion, then we said, yes, an insight into space science and technology, because we know it is not only for the students and corporate members and everyone. This is of interest and a subject of fascination for all of us, right from childhood, because we have seen even during the last year, during the Chandrayaan-2, when the rover was about to, land on the moon. Perhaps that was a small, hiccups there during the landing. But then during the takeoff of this Chandrayaan to the rocket which launched the GSLV, which launched our Chandrayaan mission, the moon mission of India. That time, this was a great experience, and even our Prime Minister, Honorable Modi ji, had mentioned that the whole country was glued to television. I recollect that time. Both Leena and myself were part of a lot of television panel discussions. We saw that right from children to from 6 to 60s, 70s, all the citizens of India were glued to television at early hours of around 2 a.m. and that itself shows how the whole country unites when such science and technological marvels take place. I mean, I remember the statement of even Modi ji when he said that it is not just during the cricket matches, but even during such occasions, the whole country comes and unites. So that is how space science unites the world. And in fact, being a part of the United Nations World Space Week Association as well, I remember the theme for the World Space Weeks every year. They are relevant to the themes, and this year it is women in space. So I'm sure a lot of women are coming in space, and we'll have more and more Indian students. I mean, not only male and female candidates, but they're going to be more in number when we see our human space flight program, that is the Gaganyaan, which will be taking off very soon by ISRO. So a lot of our students are already placed at ISRO, then National Aerospace Lab, and ADA, that is Aeronautical Defense Agency, as well as the DRDO and HAL. So it's pride to say that yes, students are doing well in these respective areas. Now I would like to start a small session, that is a small video which will show how space unites the world, and it's a small video of Carl Sagan, because now the members are from mixed age groups, as well as our IT fraternity is here. So a small video of Carl Sagan I would like to share before we go on to the presentation. So can I share the screen with a small video of Carl Sagan? Yes. This is going to be a small video which shows how India and even other countries are doing so well in this space science and technology. And apart from that, how space unites the world. So a small video I'm going to show. Sorry, I'm not able to share the screen. Just give me a moment.
Madam, regarding how to share the screens?
Yes, sir. I'm just going to share.
So I tell you, you see, in the bottom, there will be one arrow sign. You click that arrow sign.
Yes, I can see that, but probably that.
Yeah, then after clicking that arrow sign, there will be entire screen. You click that.
Yes, sir.
Then there will be a screen. You select that screen.
Right, sir.
Then select share button, share tab.
Yes, sir.
Now it will start sharing.
That's right. Just give me a moment.
Yeah, sure.
That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, are you able to see the screen? There's some.
Video is not visible first.
Yes, I'll just run it again. Yes. Just a moment.
Madam, please share your entire screen.
Yes. Are you able to see the screen right now?
No, madam. What do? You share the entire screen.
Yes,
and then
sir.
You start your video and share the entire screen.
Everyone you know.
Yes, sir.
Everyone you ever heard of. Every human being who ever was lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering. Thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines. Every hunter and forager. Every hero and coward. Every creator
Just a
and
moment.
destroyer of civilization.
Yes.
Are you able
Every
to
king
see?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Every
Okay.
young couple in love. Every mother and father. Hopeful
I'll
child.
run it
Inventor,
again.
explorer. Every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there on a mote of dust, suspended in a sunbeam. The Earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors, so that in glory and triumph they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. Think of the endless cruelties visited by the inhabitants of one corner of this pixel on the scarcely distinguishable inhabitants of some other corner. How frequent their misunderstandings, how eager they are to kill one another, how fervent their hatreds. Our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe are challenged by this point of pale light. Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. The Earth is the only world known so far to harbor life. There is nowhere else, at least in the near future, to which our species could migrate. Visit? Yes. Settle? Not yet. Like it or not, for the moment, the Earth is where we make our stand. It has been said that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image war is our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known.
Is the next screen visible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. The earlier video I was trying to show was basically made almost 30 years back. That was the voice of famous Carl Sagan, the famous cosmologist of all times. And as he has mentioned, that astronomy is a character building and a most humbling experience. So what he rightly says is, which is very apt for this generation, particularly when our students right now are confined to rooms and they are sitting at one place and they are not able to socialize or interact with each other. So, when you're gazing at sky or when you look up at the universe, then you understand that you are just a small, you are just a speck in this infinite world or universe, which is always ever expanding. So that is what he was trying to say. So that's the reason I thought of quoting this famous saying by L. Da Vinci. He says that when once you have tasted the pleasure of flight, you will walk the earth with your eyes turned skywards, for there it is you have been, and there you will always long to return. So what I really like to about this saying was all these famous astronauts or the engineers, space technologists, and of course the scientists and engineers who work for astronomy or astrophysics or space technology or for the well-being of humankind, they are all coming together for this common cause. So that's the reason our late Dr. Kalpana Chawla was also a part of this International Space Station's expedition. And she had visited earlier the space station, and during her next mission we lost her in space along with the other astronauts. But then of course Indian astronauts of Indian origin, I mean to say Sunita Williams, as well as the forthcoming expeditions, we'll see more Indians in not only our own mission, but they are part of the other missions as well. I mean, not only ISRO, but even some of our astronauts have worked for the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, that is NASA, then the European Space Agency, then DLR, German Space Agency, as well as Japanese Space Agency. So it is not just space science or space technology. When we say, it is not just confined to a city or country or continent, because late Dr. Kalpana Chawla also had mentioned that when someone asked her which country you belong to, which place you are from, she said that right now I'm a citizen of the earth, I'm an earthling. When I go in space, I forget that I'm a part of this this particular city or a country or borders, because we don't see borders. When you look up into from the space, you see this pale blue dot, that is rightly said by Carl Sagan. And this blue color, that is the blue planet, our Earth, which is seems to be the only planet which sustains life because of the presence of water and the life support gases, etc. So this is very important to cherish this pale blue dot, as he cosmologist Carl Sagan rightly said, that it is this environment or the atmosphere of Earth which is so what you call precious, and the planet Earth itself is so precious, the resources, etc. But right now we have been overutilizing the resources on this planet, and that's perhaps the reason now we need to go into the other interplanetary missions, particularly the Chandrayaan, which India had taken up, this moon mission, which we'll be seeing Chandrayaan 3 very soon. Then Venus mission, that is Shukrayaan 1, as well as Mars mission, that is Mangalyaan 2, and of course the Aditya L1 mission, and so many other missions which ISRO has in pipeline. That's the Space Odyssey of India, and that's the Indian space program. And apart from that, other space agencies, the international space agencies, they are trying to study not only the Earth but other planets as well, to know if there can be life on the other planets. So as Carl Sagan says, that probably right now our planet is the Earth is the only planet which probably harbors life or sustains life, but we do not know, because then again the theory of extraterrestrial life or life in space, then the aliens and those part, the science technology part of these things, they come into picture. But right now, I mean, all these missions, space mission, not only our own Indian space mission, but other countries are all coming on an international platform. Like this particular picture is the astronaut who is working in space. This astronaut is working on the International Space Station. You can see there are different arms. There's a Canadarm, which is a part of the Canadian Space Agency. Then the Mexican, module is there. Then the Zaira is there, Japanese module, etc. We can see this International Space Station, which is orbiting in the low Earth orbit. It revolves around Earth almost 19 times a day. And of course, almost 20 years, almost 2 decades, it has been successfully giving a platform for a lot of scientists and engineers to perform experiments in space. So that's the importance of space, because we are, as I said earlier, we are exploiting the resources on the planet Earth, and we have already exploited Mother Earth a few decades, perhaps since 5 to 6 decades. We have not spared any part of the country or continent there, and that's perhaps the reason. After exploiting, then what do we keep for our next generation? What remains for them would be the best resource, or the biggest resource, perhaps the water resources and other mineral resources. Like on Mars, we are looking at the red planet to do the mining and the excavation of a lot of resources, including the red oxide, the ferrous oxides, etc. Then on Moon also, there perhaps is reserves of water which would be needed. If we over-exploit in this similar manner, then for the next generations, what are we going to keep? So then sometimes people ask, these space missions, they really do not justify the cost of the missions, because NASA and Russian space agencies and other space agencies are spending trillions of dollars for space technology. But does it really justify? Because a country like ours, we know that perhaps there's digital divide, we all know, and the rich becoming richer, poor becoming poorer. But then do we have food resources and other resources for our citizens for the few generations to come? But then we need to go to the space, not just for the future missions, but for the tomorrow's citizens of the Earth. We need to keep reserves. So at least we should stop exploiting. Even humankind hasn't spared the Arctic or Antarctica. We have over-exploited. Then there is Siberia on the other hand, where we human beings have exploited the radioactive material and for nuclear fuels, etc. So that's the reason we need to go into space. And here you can see in this popular famous yes, am I audible, sir?
We are audible.
This famous picture of NASA astronaut of Indian origin, of course, Sunita Williams. She's also gone to space. She has done a lot of experiments. You can see this is the ISS, which is, as I said, revolving around Earth. And there are a lot of experiments. ISS acts as a scientific, laboratory which is parked in space, because the experiments which cannot be performed on Earth stations, they need to be performed on in space, because we need to know the behavior of different elements and different things in space. So that's the reason a lot of experiments are happening there. And as I said earlier, now the students also, the future space scientists and engineers would have plenty of scope, because as I keep telling the students that yes, the space is infinite, it is seamless, it is limitless, it is boundless. And we know that earlier there was a saying that sky is the limit, but now we say sky is the lower limit, because from there the deep space starts. And of course the opportunities here are plenty, they are infinite, because it is the allied branches which are coming up in space science and technology, that is including, of course, astronomy and astrophysics were already there, known to people, cosmology was there, but right now astrobiology, then genetic engineering, which is coming up like anything. Then, of course, there's a lot to learn about space medicine, then space life sciences, sciences and the biology of these the behavior of viruses, like including the present SARS-2 virus, that is the COVID virus. Such viruses and other, of course, things are being experimented on Earth station, and also to some extent even the subject like cancer study of oncology and medical instrumentation, has picked up because of this, coming up because of this space and science and technology, going at a very fast pace. And today it's the need of the hour, because if such viruses or such pandemics, there is an outbreak, then we need to apply this space science and technology to humankind, which during my introduction just now, someone said that, yes, we need to apply this for mankind, for humankind. It is not just the technology like the networks or the international calls. We use the communication satellites, as rightly said by Singhal sir as well, that we not only need for our day-to-day life, but we also need to communicate with each other. So that's the reason why the space science and technology, and of course, as I always say, that defense and space applications, there are plenty. There are umpteen applications, and of course they are the spin-offs of defense and space, because earlier DARPA had started using these networks, and the technology evolved, of course, later on. And then we started using LANs, WANs, etc. for commercial as well as for networking and communicating with each other, not only on our planet, on the other side of the planet. When we want to talk to our relatives, say sitting here in India, and want to talk to relatives there in US, which we cannot use by line of sight communication. We all know we need these communication satellites. Then of course the military satellites are there for military applications. Then it is for defense and space applications, which this is the spin-offs. And I do recollect that when we used to see the earlier missions, in fact, if you go back in 1957, when the very first, the Sputnik 1 was launched by Russian Space Agency, and that time it was Soviet, mission. Sputnik 1, which means a follower of Earth. Then Sputnik 2 was later on launched. Then the Voyager 1 was launched by NASA, Voyager 2, etc. So that was the dawn of the space age. And after that, since then till today, we have seen that the space science and technology is evolving at a very fast pace. I mean, there's no such, pace as this particular technology. And of course, in telecommunication applications, electronics and telecommunication has gained, there's an exponential growth. So something similar is happening here in space science and technology. In fact, when we see these astronauts working there in space, why do they need to go there and learn? Do these experiments and research in space? Because at least for 6 months period they are on the space station. At least 6 to 7 crew members. They work in different modules. So they are basically studying what effects are there happening on human beings when they go on space, the bone elongation, muscle atrophy, then the eye movement, of course, the rate, heart rate, everything is getting affected. But then why does this study happen? Because for the human space flight program, which we Indians also are going to see, ISRO is going to soon, they have already declared this Gaganyaan project, which is going to be, focusing on human space flight program. So what effects are happening on the, when you work in space, when you stay there for longer period, more than 6 months, almost a year, if you live there, then there are, of course, some irreversible changes in the human body. But apart from that, there are some reversible effects. When you come back, the muscle atrophy and then the bone elongation again comes back to normal. But there are some changes which do happen. So here, this is a photograph of the famous, the last picture of the crew of Kalpana Chawla and her colleagues. This is at the backdrop, you can see this is the Kennedy Space Center of NASA, which is the spaceport, the launch pad for NASA's missions. And this was just before the launch of this Columbia, to which the mishap which took place on 1st of February 2003. And we lost these, valuable, these astronauts, the lives of these astronauts in space. But of course, this is a kind of sacrifice these astronauts are doing there, because, as I said earlier, these, research and the study, which is experiments which are done in space, they are for the future of humankind, whether it is for medical applications or space science or space medicine or space biology, whatever you call it. It is basically for the future of humankind, and that's the reason it is gaining so much of demand and importance to work in space. Well, this is the picture of US Space and Rocket Center. If you see this, this was the beginning of NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center. The space program actually started with converting those Redstone missiles into making constructive rockets, and then sending humans into space. And of course, Dr. Wernher von Braun and his team, they were actually responsible for taking humans and land them on the moon safely through this Apollo mission. Of course, the Saturn V rocket, which they had made. So this is a challenging part of space. And as I said, that these were the small, artifacts which are preserved on the US Space and Rocket premises. And I was lucky to visit this couple of times, because almost a decade back, and then again last February 2020, I had visited US Space and Rocket Center, where I was trained along with other educators. So this was enriching experience, because to work at this US Space and Rocket Center and visiting these, seeing these modules firsthand, experiencing those simulations, particularly, which the astronauts are kind of trained in space, just how the pilots get trained, pilots and co-pilots before flying, whether they are military aircrafts or commercial aircrafts. They undergo a lot of rigorous training. So something similar, we know that even Sunita Williams and most of these astronauts who are selected from this are mostly belong to the US Navy. That is, they used to fly those fighter aircrafts, and the most challenging aspects, because they can land and take off on a small strip area on the naval ships. So that's the reason these astronauts are selected from this background. And this challenging thing was, when we were working on these modules, particularly the multi-axis training unit, and then the flight control tasks, these were pretty easy. But, like the astronauts are trained on the Earth station, they have to go through rigorous training, that is multi-axis training unit. And there is a what you call the space shots, then the underwater aviation challenge, then undergoing, different kinds of microgravity and zero gravity environment, working there in the weightlessness environment. So that was perhaps challenging and a different kind of experience which both of us got when we were trained there. Now this is the famous picture of an astronaut who is working. It looks like he's stationed to this particular arm, that's the Canadarm. Which is again part of the International Space Station, which is docked to this space shuttle. And this famous picture of this astronaut who is doing some repair or maintenance activity back there. And this is called the what you call the extra terrestrial kind of training, and they are doing this activity there when they go into space. Now, necessarily, these astronauts have to wear the space suit. We all know this also, is a huge investment of the space suit, working on the space suit, because the astronauts, when they go out of the space station, when they are doing this extraterrestrial activity, they definitely need to wear the space suit, because the human body would disintegrate, because there's a vacuum in this lower Earth orbit. When we move higher and higher, you can see that there is deep space. There's what you call this darkness there, and this astronaut seems to be, upside down, but definitely in space it is not. There's no left, right, top, bottom. It is just a part of the extraterrestrial activity which the astronaut is doing. And of course, a lot of astronauts have gone on the space station to do repair activity on the Hubble Space Telescope, and the next would be the James Webb Telescope, which will be launched very soon by NASA and ESA as a joint activity. And of course, as I said earlier, I was quickly going through the slides because I want to also share a famous video of the astronauts who are actually working in space. So that's also an interesting thing to see and witness how these astronauts work there. So this is, of course, the picture I recollect having met Dr. K. Radhakrishnan, who is actually the man behind the success of Mangalyaan, and of course GSLV Mark III, the rocket, the Fat Boy, which is supposed to be the one which carries heavier payloads into space. Our Indian space program, we know that PSLVs and GSLVs are the PSLV, the workhorse, which has been doing so many successful missions. Now, this is a picture of Sunita Williams when she was at Nehru Science Center, when I had met her, and back in April 2013. And of course, as was mentioned earlier, the opportunity to meet Edward Buckbee and Homer Hickman Jr., who is, of course, a pioneer rocket scientist, having worked at Von Braun Center, and he had worked with Dr. Werner von Braun in his early days of his career. And now, of course, they are retired, and they are they are serving for the nation as advisors to NASA, etc. Now, this is picture with our guru, Dr. Gowarikar sir, who has always, we used to seek his blessings and guidance from time to time. So, of course, this is the picture of the former shuttle mission commander and astronaut whom I got the opportunity to meet, Robert Hood Gibson. And of course, it is not just NASA and the European Space Agency, ESA, but Japanese Space Agency, where a lot of Indians are working. We know that they are working at NASA, the Jet Propulsion Lab particularly. A lot of Indians are contributing to space technology. Already they are doing great work. I mean, apart from serving at, of course, ISRO and National Space Agency, then there are CSIR and these laboratories which are working in close conjunction with ISRO, etc. And of course, they are contributing to the humankind. And it is, as I said earlier, when they are working either for India or other countries, it doesn't really matter, because working in space, when we go up into space, it said that it changes our perspective of looking at the planet. Then we don't say that we are belonging to this particular country or continent. We don't see borders from there. So that's the reason whether you are contributing for the future of space science technology for the country or for other space agencies, but definitely you're contributing for the humankind. So that's how it works. So I keep telling the students about opportunities, etc. But now being, having little time, I want to share a few more videos as to how astronauts would work in space. Now, I had got the opportunity to visit these NASA centers. Some of them, of course, I haven't visited JPL or Stennis, but some of our students are working for Jet Propulsion Labs. A student who is Chaitali and her husband Rohit, they are right now working for NASA's JPL. And when I asked her, when I interacted with her recently, she said that she's right now working on one mission. She's basically, of course, from Nashik, and she did her engineering from College of Engineering, COEP. And later on, when she did her master's from Caltech, etc., she said that she got the opportunity to work. She's right now working for JPL. I mean, the couple is right now working at JPL. Her present research work is going on. She said that she's working on making a small payload, a module which will go into a spacecraft of NASA, which is going to study the freshwater resources on the planet, because not all the ocean, the water on the existing on the planet Earth is potable or worth, ready to drink this kind of water. But then there are freshwater lakes, etc. There are freshwater resources on our planet. So tapping or, doing this kind of study. So these are like end applications which the space scientists, etc., are they are and technologists are working at making different modules, and which will definitely be of use to the humankind, and of course it will directly or indirectly contribute to betterment of the society. And as I keep telling, because the United Nations World Space Week is also coming from 4th to 10th of October. 4th October, they planned this date because on 4th October 1957, the Sputnik 1 was launched. And on 10th of October, this in 1967, after 10 years, almost after the dawn of the space age, later on this treaty was signed between all these countries of the and member nations of United Nations, because they said that space has to be utilized for peaceful and useful purposes of humankind, as I said, and not for destruction or for fighting between the two countries, or between for the resources on Earth and in space. We need to keep peace. So that's the reason that treaty was signed later on. So these dates and this week is observed everywhere. And of course in Nashik, we have been for last 10 years, we have been, since I'm also an advisor to the Yashwantrao Chauhan Planetarium of the run by the corporation here. I'm an advisor there. So we have been planning these activities for students, for awareness and for educational and public outreach, to make more awareness, create awareness of space science and technology to students and as well as the citizens, I mean, of irrespective of the age. Well, now coming to these aspects, I thought this is not going to be very relevant for today, but then of course we know that this is the important slide which I wanted to show. This Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, the architect of our space program, Indian space program, he rightly said that space has to be utilized for the development of a country, a nation, developing nation like ours, and it is not to compete with the Western world, of course. Sorry, it is just, we need to use space, like space-based technologies. Even today, we can utilize the space technology for solar-based systems, or making these satellites for this technology. Actually, in India, it started at Trivandrum, when ISRO was formed at Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, was started with that mission, that we need to give proper signals or early warning to the say the fishermen who are a part of the on the coastal Kerala borders, who used to there used to be a lot of floods during that time, and there were no satellites to give that kind of signal. So this sounding rockets were launched, and then India started with this space mission and launching of Aryabhatta and the first artificial satellite, and of course Bhaskara, and then the space technology, the satellite technology has evolved, and now we have also recently launched, of course, the AstroSat and the Cartosat series, and of course the INSAT series and the communication satellites, etc. So this was the mission, and this was the reason why India had given importance to the space program. And of course, the space exploration for the future generations to come will go on. This is a never-ending affair, but of course it is going to, exorbitantly, it is expensive, but still at the same time, this field has no limit, and of course, a lot of students would be needed, because that was the dream of late Dr. APJ Kalam. He said that, of course, India needs, we need to produce more core engineers, and those particularly who are willing to contribute for defense and space application. So this was what I wanted to show in the slides, and later on I want to run a small video before I actually conclude, and before we have kind of question answers, if anything coming up from the students. So I would like to end here this particular presentation, and of course run a small video if time permits. Is it okay, sir?
Yes, madam. Yes.
Right, sir. Well, we know that there are a lot of astronauts who are working in space, but right now there is there's a popular work which is happening there, and we know that apart from NASA, ESA, there are other what you call the private players are also coming into picture. In US, we can see SpaceX, Virgin Galactic, then the Blue Origin, all are coming together. They are not just what you call, they are not public undertaking. They are also people from private players who are coming up. And similarly, even in India, we can see that kind of scenario which is happening. So let me just show a small video, and before maybe if time permits, we can also see few more aspects, but right now I would like to show a video of as to how these astronauts work there in space. Is it visible, sir?
Houston.
No, madam. It is visible.
Okay, fine, sir.
Thank you, Chris.
Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Houston, this is the International Space Station. I'm ready for the event.
Lockview High School, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station. This is John Monroe, teacher at Lockview High School in Fall River, Nova Scotia. How do you hear us?
John and Lockview High School and everybody in Falls River. Yes, I read you loud and clear from the space station.
How's the weather up there?
The weather is hot in the sun and cold in the shade and nice here inside.
Well, we have some great questions for you, Mr. Commander Hatfield, so I'm going to send it over to David St. Jacques, and he'll get the questions going.
Hey, Chris. Good to talk to you. David, bonjour. We have un business très bien. Merci.
Chris, we have the winners of the Science Challenge with us here. Kendra Lemke and Meredith Faulkner in grade 10. And we were wondering if you had the possibility to do their experiments for us in space.
I do. Thank you for the invitation to do so. For all of the people that come right across Canada in thinking about a science experiment that we could do here on the space station, thank you for thinking about it. It's through original thought that inventions are made. And a special congratulations to Kendra and Meredith for winning and for giving me the opportunity to demonstrate. The question is, if you get a cloth dripping wet without gravity and you wring it out, what's going to happen? What will happen to a wrung out cloth? So, and I had to use equipment that was here on board the space station. We may have the coolest washcloths ever here on the space station. I'm going to show you. Here's one of our washcloths. And it's packed it. It's put down into this little tiny hockey puck so that it saves space. But when you open up a hockey puck and you pull out your washcloth, this is the one I'm going to use for the experiment today. Everything floats away, so I have to put it in my pocket. So when you open up your hockey puck and turn it into a washcloth, it was compressed in a great big vise somewhere. Okay, so here's my washcloth, like a magic trick. And now I'm going to get this soaking wet, and then we're going to see what will happen when we wring it out. Meredith and Kendra suggested that I dip this in a bag, but bags don't hold water in space. So instead, I filled a water bag. This has drinking water in it. And I'm going to squirt a bunch of water into this washcloth. Getting nice and wet. I want to make sure for the experiment that it's really soaking wet. Okay, so I have a soaking wet washcloth here floating in front of me. And now I'm going to wring it out and see what happens. I'll get up close so you can see here. Oh, there's one ball of water floating around. Put it on the washcloth. Okay, so here's a soaking wet washcloth. Get the microphone so you can hear me while I'm talking. And now let's start wringing it out. It's really wet. And it's becoming a tube of water. It looks very cool. The water's running up my hands a little bit. Hey, Tom, can you come grab me a towel, please? I got one on the wall. It's over here by Cetus. So, it'd be on the other side of Cetus. They're stuck in there. So, water is all over my hands. In fact, it rings out of the cloth into my hands. And if I let go of the cloth carefully, the water sort of has it stick to my hand. The surface tension of the water keeps it stuck to my hand. Next time. Grab the microphone. Okay, so the experiment worked beautifully. And the answer to the question is the water squeezes out of the cloth. And then because of the surface tension of the water, it actually runs along the surface of the cloth and then up into my hand, almost like you had Jello on your hands or gel on your hand. And it'll just stay there. Wonderful moisturizer on my hands. And the cloth doesn't really unravel itself. It just stays there floating like a dog's chew toy, soaking wet. Great experiment, worked perfectly. Meredith and Kendra, congratulations. Great idea.
Thank you, Chris. I know everybody was thinking in their own mind, we see you better now. Thank you. Everybody here was thinking, what will happen to that water? And who had predicted this? Raise your hands if you had predicted this. I see a couple of hands there. That's good. Well, science is like that. You think a benign experiment will just be an obvious result? No, it can be very surprising. So, very creative idea. Thank you. Chris, if you have a little bit of time, we can ask you, there's a couple questions here people have. Maybe the first one will be Meredith.
Hi, Chris. I'm Meredith. How has your perspective of humans changed since viewing the world from Earth to viewing the world from space?
How has my perspective of humans changed? It's an interesting question, Meredith, because you really have time to reflect when you're so far from home. You know, there are 6 of us on board, and we are completely separate from the other 6.5 billion of the rest of us. And so you feel that physical separation, but it may be surprising to you, but in fact, I feel closer to everyone, I think, as a result. When you live in your house, in your street, in your town, in your province, in your country, you tend to identify those things almost like layers of a fortress around yourself. You know, I'm from this place, and all those things are barriers between you and everybody else. And even travel tends to break that down. But to be in a position where you can go around the world in 92 minutes and see every place over and over and over again, those barriers fade. And of course, I still see the strife and the stupid things we do, like what happened yesterday in Boston, and then the suffering we have to put through, like the enormous earthquake in Iran today. Things still happen, and some people still horribly misbehave. But the vast majority of people are good, and people are just trying to find joy and raise their children well, and find grace in life. And for me up here, I found partway through the flight, I just feel like I refer to everybody as just us. It's all of us together in this. And so I think it's a perspective that some people get naturally and that some people will never get. But I know it's a perspective that having the chance to see the world the way I've been trying to show it through the pictures I've been sending back, it's a perspective that you definitely get when you live on board a space station.
Thank you, Chris.
Yes.
Thank you, Chris. This is a very moving answer. And Kendra also has a question for you.
I know you started your career in the military, so I would like to know.
That was the video of Colonel Chris Hadfield of Canadian Space Agency. He's also from Navy background, who's an astronaut who has been to space station on a couple of occasions. And what he rightly said, we all believe that the space definitely not only working or living in space, but also studying about the science technology, it broadens the perspective of humans. So perhaps for this reason, we should reach out to the students as much as possible so that we can unite the world and unite this, and come as a single community. So that was a great message by Colonel Hadfield. And before I actually conclude, I would just like to quote what Sunita Williams recently, when I met her, she mentioned about working there in space. Because I got that opportunity to interact with her for almost 20-25 minutes. So that was at Nehru Center when she was here on the tour to India. What she had said, when I asked her what was the best thing you see from the space station, what's the best sight, she said that, of course, the blue Earth, the planet Earth, it looks beautiful, but particularly when we are orbiting just over India, she said the view of Himalayas, the Ganges, the river Ganga, it shows that the divinity and the spirituality of the nation, of our country, India. And of course, she belongs here. She's from India, but not only for that reason. What India has given to the the whole globe is the spirituality, which we generally combine science and spirituality. So that was one thing which she shared. And of course, another thing which she mentioned, when I asked her, how does it feel when you are just about to board the shuttle space, the shuttle before it takes off? She said that, yes, when these astronauts are just about to board on the rocket which is about to launch, she said that of course there's a bit of fear, because having seen the some of the mishaps in the past few decades, she said that yes, it is scary, but then of course they are all prepared. It's kind of sacrifice, she said. And what she also mentioned was these three astronauts, when they are just about to board on the rocket, she said that they literally sign off. They cut a cake and they are sprinkled with holy water from the Pope, and they literally sign off, because they do not know whether this is going to be a returnable journey or not. It is sometimes non-returnable, we know that. And as Sir had also mentioned, that space travel, space tourism, of course, will popularize in future. But of course, the safety and everything also matters. So what Sunita Williams said was very important. She said that when we are just we are about to board on the go into space, she said that this is a long voyage. But of course, this is a long voyage, and we know that it is for the science and technology, space technology, which every astronaut dreams of going into space, sometimes even walking on the moon. She herself said that her dream is to go to the moon sometime, and hope before her retirement she gets that opportunity to walk on the surface of moon, and perhaps she may be a part of the next NASA's Artemis mission. And there are of course other astronauts of Indian origin, like Sisira, who is also being selected for the next mission, the NASA, SpaceX, and Blue Origin. They are all planning to send more and more astronauts in space, and hope we see more and more Indians particularly contributing to the space technology. And I just recollect how small our project which we were working on the DST project of TIFAC, that was a study of sensors, transducers, and actuators in space technology. That was immediately after our bachelor, completing our graduation. But we were nevertheless that time thrilled that we got this opportunity to do a small project at ISRO, that is at Bangalore Satellite Application Center then. So, but of course that perhaps was a beginning for us, which actually triggered interest in us. And of course, then later on, seeing these scientists and engineers contributing to this technology, and hope we see more and more of our students and Indians who will go and work in space. So with that, I would like to conclude and would definitely like to thank again the IET fraternity, Dr. Gulan, so who is and particularly Praura Engineering College, which is instrumental in creating this kind of awareness and conducting a lot of sessions throughout this pandemic, particularly to enrich knowledge of students. So thanks again for giving me this opportunity to be a part of today's session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam. It was really a very informative session and a lot of information gathered, and your picture with popular all astronauts. So basically had the feeling to us that we are close to that astronaut through you. So
thank you.
A really great session it was. Any queries from the audience?
Yes, sir. Can I ask ma'am a question?
Yeah, sure.
Ma'am, what is the microgravity?
Yes, the microgravity environment, we know that on our planet Earth, we experience gravitational pull, and that is making us, rooted and grounded on this planet. But if you see on the other planet, again, it works on the universal laws of gravitation, which we have been studying in physics for, Newton's laws, etc. And of course, Einstein's law of relativity. When we say that our planet Earth is experiencing this gravity, we know that if you go to the moon, we have seen those astronauts, galloping or cosmonauts galloping there on the moon. That means they are not actually, this gravitational pull which we experience on our Earth is not the same as on moon. We know it all depends on the mass of this particular planet or the celestial object. So on the moon, it is of course 1/6. We know that if you are weighing here, then the 1/10, 1/6 of that you experience on moon, and it's again different on Mars or any other planet. So we cannot say it is zero gravity environment. That term also sometimes is used, but it is microgravity, meaning it is slightly less than what we experience here on our planet. And when we are into space station, you saw how these astronauts, when they are working in space, they are like floating. Of course, they are like that's the reason these astronauts, as I said earlier, they are trained in the underwater aviation challenge, etc. Meaning they need to swim properly, because it's like, when you are there, you are like floating, flying there. So experiencing that, because that kind of environment is created inside the space station, and it is in that orbit, low Earth orbit. So necessarily it is going 19 times. So that environment is created. So we cannot say it is zero gravity, it is microgravity environment. So that is how we use this term.
Ma'am, I have two questions.
Yeah.
My first question is how we calculate the distance from Earth to the Sun, and second question is how we calculate the weight of the Sun.
Yes, again, this is based on calculations, because we do not know. It is indirect methods. Now, one important aspect is we know that not only NASA or other space agencies, they have sent a lot of flyby missions to different planets. Like if you take example, recently. The New Horizon was sent by NASA then to study different planets. Planetary bodies. Like we sent this probe to the orbiter to the moon, right? Chandrayaan-2. So this was basically to see when you take close-up pictures of say moon, when you send an orbiter around moon, it is like sending a satellite, like satellites are revolving around our planet. So something similar, man-made satellites are going, those orbiters are going around moon. So something similar now India is also planning to send this Aditya L1, that is Lagrange these points they are going to select, and they are going to, our ISRO scientists and engineers are already working on it. They'll be sending this probe very close by to the sun, which will of course not only study distance is already being calculated and by indirect methods, but to also study the properties like this self-sustained nuclear chain reactions which are taking place, nuclear fusion of hydrogen atoms fusing together to form helium and releasing so much of solar energy and heat. So that is happening every moment. So that study, then the effect of that corona, and then of course the atmosphere, photosphere of sun, etc., that is being studied. These are the other properties which are being studied. I mean, distance calculation and all. We know that there are this electronic robotic telescope, that is the Hubble Space Telescope, which I mentioned. It's already in place. It is working successfully for 30 years. It has already calculated the distance, not only sun is just our of course the sun-centered solar system, so it's a pivotal role which is playing, it is playing. And apart from our sun, that is sun-centered solar system, we scientists have already found the distance from our sun is just a speck of that spiral galaxy, the Milky Way, that is called this Akash Ganga, and it is just a speck in this universe, the ever-expanding universe. We know that this is one galaxy. Our sun-centered solar system is just one part of this galaxy. There are so many, numerous infinite galaxies. Then the nebula, that is every star is born. Sun is also a star which is almost 6.5 billion years. So it has reached almost its half-life. So it will perhaps remain there for another 6.5 billion years. So something similar to that, what I'm trying to say is such stars are born every nanosecond or millisecond, we do not know. And other side of the universe is where these stars, they are they end up using this fuel which is getting over. They'll be a dead star and they'll go into black hole. So that kind of life cycle of star, that is also happening around in this whole universe. So there are black holes placed at different parts. They are already existing in the universe. So this is how the universe works. So it is, just our sun and sun-centered solar system is just a small part of it. There are, of course, other galaxies which we need to study. So that is the role of the telescopes. Hubble telescope, and next the James Webb telescope, which is in the making, and it will be launched very soon. So this was a part of that sun-centered solar system. If you have any question, if anyone else has, we can take up a few more questions.
Ma'am, can you give your email or phone number? We have questions.
Yes, I can. I request sir to share my details for those who are interested, so that I can maybe guide the students. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Yes, ma'am. I am a student in standard, and I am have my own laboratory. I am in Khodad, GMRT, near to GMRT. I want more information about this science technology. That's why I want a phone number or email of yours.
Yes, sure. That can be shared.
Okay, we can put up that in the chat box, and he can note down it. Right?
Yes,
sure.
Yes,
sure.
sir.
Yeah. So good, Atharva. You have taken interest. You are the 10th standard students. How you come to know about the link?
Apurva ma'am, Facebook page. I get that link of this today's meeting.
Oh, great. Okay.
If you have the interest, if you have the will, you can get the way. Right.
Yeah, true, very right. I had shared it yesterday. I know. Okay. Of course, a lot of students, and particularly those aspirants who are, want to work in science, technology, they are members and they are, friends on this account. And also, I had shared on LinkedIn, perhaps, so students who are, part of that, they get to know. Of course, we are now conducting UN Space Week, World Space Week as well from 4th to 10th October. I can share details so that our students also can join, they can participate in this global event.
Sir, can you put email of the ma'am in description? Email.
Yeah, chat box we can put the.
Yes,
Ma'am, I would like to ask one more question. Can I?
Yes,
yeah, sure.
Ma'am, recently I heard that Einstein's relativity equation has proved because.
Yes.
Avishkar, you are not audible properly.
Yeah, there's a bit of disturbance.
Your voice is breaking. Yeah.
Okay.
Now I'm audible. Ma'am, recently I heard that the Einstein's relativity equation has been proved because of around a black hole lights get turned. So how get Einstein's relativity equation is proved?
Yes.
So
As I said earlier, there are black holes existing in the universe. So it's believed that scientists and engineers across the globe are studying on this interesting topic. And the more we get to know about this, there's this LIGO project which recently, a few years back was kickstarted to study gravitational waves, etc. Because we know that somewhere around the black hole, this light gets turned. So that is how these experiments are performed there. So it is something similar to that. We have some of the transporters, we have some equipment also in India. They are going to set up this. There are at few places on the globe Earth so that we get signals from the universe. So it is, directly and indirectly, a lot of experiments are happening. Like a few years back, if you recollect, that was at in Strasbourg. That is in CERN, 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 this largest laboratory on Swiss-France border. They made this experiment. They wanted to, replicate the experiment, the Big Bang theory, like how it perhaps might have happened when the actual Big Bang took place. We never know. None of us has seen that. Of course, any scientist or engineer would just think and put forth these theories, but nobody has seen that. But then if you say visualize these experiments which might have happened, the processes which took place during the Big Bang, so something similar to that perhaps is being done. These experiments are carried out at CERN, then ITER, or a lot of places where international cooperation, because most of these projects, as I said, including International Space Station, they are a collaboration. They are international collaborated projects, because only ISRO or only NASA, ESA, then German Space Agency or JAXA, they cannot do standalone projects. We need to do, we need to share common resources. We need to spend a lot of money for these. So that's the reason all these projects are made at a large scale. And of course, as I said earlier, getting the images from the Hubble telescope or the next forthcoming James Webb telescope would be giving a lot of pictures, will be sending images. But how do we analyze? Then these scientists and engineers, they work on, they do a lot of calculations, etc., which are related to that. And of course, it is not a direct measurement of any distance or calculation of these things. What they do is like we have this Doppler shift, these theories which are underlying principles which will explain or which will help in finding distances, or which will give the properties of particular planets or solar systems or nebula or galaxies, etc. So something similar is happening as far as the gravitational waves are concerned. So LIGO is the one, the interferometer pattern, which is actually they have done in international collaboration of all these countries. They have come together and they have performed these huge experiments. So like that, this is going to go on and on. It is not going to end anywhere, because that is how this space technology is, right? Okay, if you have any other questions, anybody, we can take up few questions if time permits.
So even we have shared the email ID of Madam in the chat box. If you have any queries, you can just have through her mail. So once again, I am very much thankful to you, Madam, for giving such a informative session. And yeah, so I am very much thankful to all the dignitaries who were present for the today's webinar. Dr. P.K. Singh, who has shared the session today, Dr. K.T.V. Reddy, immediate past president of IETA, Dr. Ravi Kumar from Hyderabad. Then we had with us Professor C. Murli from Bangalore. Then Dr. Manish Tibdewal was there. Dr. Gayatri Phade Madam was there. Bhuse Madam was there among us, and many more. So really, it was a really beneficial and fruitful webinar for all. We all. Now I request Mr. Mandlik, Professor Mandlik, to proceed further for the formal vote of thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I take this opportunity to express my sincere thanks to today's expert, Apurva Jakhadi Madam, for giving us an insight into space science and technology. I am also thankful to today's chief guest, Professor Pramod Kumar Singhal, for sparing his valuable time for the function. We are also thankful to Dr. K.T.V. Reddy sir, all the principals, faculty, corporate and student members of IIT for attending the program. Last but not the least, we are thankful to IIT and our management, who is always supportive for organizing such events. With the kind permission of today's chief guest, I declare the program is over and pray for everyone's good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, sir. It's great pleasure, sir, to interview. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi Kumar ji, for being with us. Dr. K.T.V. Reddy. Sir, want to speak something? Reddy, sir.
But nothing is there. You can go ahead, doing well and continue good work. We are there to support. Yes.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Kulharni ji. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
the best, ma'am.
Go ahead.
You soon,
Yeah.
sir. Yes. Okay.
Probably the next speaker will be Dr. Rajesh Bodade from he is chairman IIT Center Mahu, and he is a professor for military telecommunication Institute of Telecommunication Engineering. Okay, so he'll be delivering lecture next Saturday. So I request all of you to be with us for the next Saturday webinar. Thank you. By then, thank you all. See you then. See you. Bye. See you, madam. See you.
You, sir.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.